can do the Jai Guru.
Shishi Guru, Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari, Radha Vinod Radha, Govinda Devaki, Nitali Vishnu Om, Vishnupad Paramahansa, Pararajacharya Astatara Sata Shri Srimad, Abhay Charanaravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada Ki, Dali Vishnu Om, Vishnupad Paramahansa, Pararajacharya Astatara Sata Shri Srimad, Bhakti Vedanta, Narayan Goswami Maharaj, Srila Gurudev Ki,
Jai.
Shri
Gaura
Guru Bhargava Ki Jai.
Jai.
Shri Rupa Shri Sanatana Bhata Radhanashi Jiva Gopala Bhata Das Rana Shad Goswami Prabhu Ki Prem Sakho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Brahmadananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ananta Koti Vaishnava Ki
Jai.
Samarasa Bhakta Vrinda
Jai.
Jai Gaura
Hari Bol. Can you hand me one more songbook? Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaya Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namah Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Juta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Shri Gurun Dinataranam Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahabhadandaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratishe Namah Anarpita Charim Shirat Kurunaya Bhatirna Kalo Samarpaitum Unatojvalarasam Swabhakti Shriyam Hari Purata Sundara Dyuti Kadamba Sandipita Sada Hridaya Kandare Spuratu Vasachi Nandanaha Nityanandam Namastubhyam Prem Ananda Pradayane Kalo Kalamashanashaya Janava Pataye Nama Nityanandam Ham Nomi Sarvananda Karam Param Hari Nama Pradam Devam Avadhuta Shiromanim Ajanu Lambita Bhujo Kanakavadato Samkirtanaika Pitaro Kamalaya Taksho Vishwambaro Dvijavaro Yuga Dharma Palo Vande Jagat Priyakaro Karunavataro. Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Brindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Namo Nalana Netraya Venuvadya Vinodane Radha Dara Sudapana Shalane Vanamalane Radhe Vrindavanadishe Karunamritavahini Kripaya Nijapadabja Dasyam Mahyam Pradiyatam. Bhaktya Vihina Aparadha Lakshay Kshiptascha Kamadi Tarangamadye Kripa Maitvam Sharanam Prapanna Vrinde Numaste Charanaravindam. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. First of all, I'm offering my unlimited Dandavat Pranams and my Shraddha Pushpanjali at the lotus feet of my most worshipable Diksha and Siksha Gurudevs. Nityalila Pravishtom Vishnupad Paramahansa Ashtatarashata Sri Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada. Nityalila Pravishtom Vishnupad Paramahansa Asto Tarashata Sri Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj. And Nityalila Pravishta Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Ashtatarashata Sri Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. I offer my Dandavat Pranams to the lotus feet of all of my Sri Sri Rupa Nuga Guru Varga. And I offer my Dandavat Pranams to all the Vaishnavas and all the Vaishnavis. So yesterday we began the reading of verse 43, and we read it somewhat into the Srila Gurudev's commentary, but it actually has considerably long purport, which I think we counted the pages to be around 10 pages. Yeah. So we've got a lot of nectar coming tonight. So I'm reading verse 43 again. Yasyanka ranjita shiras tavamana bhange Goshtendra sunur adikam susamam upaiti laksharasa sa chakada padayor adhaste nyasto mayapya titaram chavim apsya tiha. When will your lotus feet shine with splendor, as Krishna is beautified by anointing his head with the reddish mark from your feet, which I decorated with lac, in his efforts to soothe your jealous anger. You can repeat. Yasyanka Ranjita Shiras Tavamana Bange Goshtendra Sunur Adikam Susamam Upaiti Laksha Rasa Sacha Kada Padayor Adhaste Nyasto Mayapi Atitaram Shavim Apsyatiha. When will your lotus feet shine with splendor? As Krishna is beautified by anointing his head with the reddish mark from your feet, which I decorated with lac, in his efforts to soothe your jealous anger. So we're mentioning how this verse really is the Seva Kunj painting. And we went over the Smaragala Kandanam line from Jayadev Goswami. So this is exactly, Krishna is anointing his head with the lotus feet of Srimati Radhika. That's what's being expressed here. And Tulsi Manjari, Raghunath Das Goswami, is saying that I anointed those lotus feet with lac, reddish color. And now that mark from your lotus feet is on his head, beautifying his head. And this was done at a time when Krishna was making very great efforts to soothe your jealous anger. So isn't that the Seva Kunj painting? Yes. There's so much here that we read yesterday. But I'm going to go over it again, because all of them were not here.
Well, they don't tune in from distant places?
I don't know.
Sometimes.
Yeah. So Srila Gurudev's commentary, he's beginning with a section titled Spurti and the Two States of Raghunath Das Goswami. As a sadhak, Raghunath Das Goswami is sometimes in outer sense, and sometimes he is immersed in bhav seva. He is thinking, I am with Srimati Radhika, and I am really serving her. At that time, he forgets he is Raghunath Das Goswami. He forgets everything. But when that bhav goes away, then Vipralamba comes. And he is thinking, I am not serving. It was only my imagination or a spurti. There is much difference between a spurti and kalpana, imagination. We had a discussion yesterday. Braj was also here on this point. What is a spurti? So, Gurudev is saying, a spurti is the real thing, coming down itself. It comes by yogamaya, by bhakti. This is called a spurti. And imagination is the word kalpana. Srimati Radhika is weeping for Krishna. Gurudev is giving an example here of how she has a spurti. Srimati Radhika is weeping for Krishna. Krishna is very far away in Dwarka. She remembers that once she was doing man and Krishna came. And now she sees that, oh, Krishna has come here and he is asking me, why are you weeping? I'm here. And he is wiping away my tears. Radhika's experiencing this. He is making a garland. He says to Srimati Radhika, I am always with you. Why are you weeping? And at the same time, she saw that Lalita, Vishaka, and others all came. And they were all playing. After some time, she saw that there is no Krishna, no Lalita, or Vishaka. She is weeping and weeping. This is called spurti. So in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami has written that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sent Damodar Pandit to his mother to give her a message. That's such a sweet pastime. Do you remember from Chaitanya Charitamrita?
So,
Okay, let's try.
is this when Sachi Devi was cooking every day for Mahaprabhu? And then the food stuffs would disappear and she didn't know what was happening?
Right.
And then Mahaprabhu sent Damodar Pandit to tell Sachi Devi that, oh, I'm coming and I'm taking everything.
You are correct. Except that she would start cooking again because there was nothing there and she thought, oh, did I not cook? So Mahaprabhu sent Damodar Pandit to his mother. He told him, go to my mother and tell her that I'm daily going to Mayapur to visit her. And when she cooks some very good preparations, and she desires, oh, if my Nimai were here, he would take this prasad. Tell her, I actually do go daily and take Mahaprasadam there. When she sees that there is nothing on the plate, I've taken everything. And when she sees everything is gone, she imagines she has not cooked yet, and again she tries to cook and offer. Tell my mother that I go and really take all the things that she gives me. She thinks that it is a spurti, but it is not a spurti. I really go there. Krishna told Uddhava also, tell the gopis and Radhika, when Krishna was sending Uddhava to Vrindavan to give message. Tell the gopis and Radhika that sometimes when Srimati Radhika becomes so sad and weeps, I go there, I decorate her, and I meet and talk with Radhika. She should not see that it is only a spurti, but it is the real thing. So that was Krishna's message to the. Now they're dying in Vipralamba after Krishna has left and gone to Mathura. But actually he hasn't left. We also know that. But he's always there watching. He's always there watching and tasting their bhavs and their moods. And then sometimes he enters directly, but she's thinking this is a spurti. So for a sadhak, it is as abhas. Abhas means a semblance of, right? For a sadhak, it is as abhas, not real. But for a siddha bhakta, it is real. For the sadhak bhakta also, by the mercy of Krishna, we can have all these things. Otherwise, we may not realize all these things. How not realize? If we get Krishna's mercy, we may get these things. But otherwise, we may not realize all these things for a sadhak. So, there are two stages for Raghunath Das Goswami. One when he is immersed in seva, in his manjari form, thinking that Srimati Radhika is instructing him to perform various services that he is carrying out, like giving kajal, that was in the last verse. While he is telling all the pastimes to Srimati Radhika. So this is mentioned again and again, that when Tulsi Manjari is decorating Radhika, she's reminding Radhika about various pastimes in which that part of her body was playing some role in the pastime, and how Krishna became conquered, or like tamed like a elephant, mad elephant. That was in the last verse, kajal, just in the corner of her eyes. But that corner of her eyes was like a chain which bound the feet of the elephant, so the elephant couldn't move. So, in this way, yes, so Raghunath Das Goswami, he's immersed in seva, and he's thinking that Srimati Radhika is instructing him to perform various services. Bring my belt, anoint my feet with lac. She's giving so many instructions. So thinking that Srimati Radhika is instructing him to perform various services that he is carrying out, like giving kajal, while he is telling all the pastimes to Srimati Radhika. And both are so pleased. And one, as a sadhak, praying for internal service. Sometimes, when he is immersed in thinking like this, by the grace of Bhakti Devi, Prem Bhakti or Yogamaya, by the grace of one of these, Bhakti Devi, Prem Bhakti or Yogamaya, it comes like a spurti, and he forgets everything of this world and outer worlds. But then it stops. And he becomes so sad. He is weeping and hankering. Oh, I have come from Vaikuntha down to hell. His heart then burns with the signs of Vipralamba Bhav. When he was thinking to give kajal, so many pastimes of Krishna and Radhika came in his heart as a spurti, and now it has stopped. This is called vikshepa. In vikshepa, that leela which was going on spontaneously, sva rasiki, suddenly stopped. And he became like a serpent who has lost his jewel. Can you close this door here while the popcorn is popping? Thank you. So Raghunath Das Goswami sorry, I'm rereading this. This is called vikshepa. When the pastimes are coming in his heart as a spurti, but then it stops. This is called vikshepa. In vikshepa, that leela which was going on spontaneously, swa rasiki, it suddenly stopped and he became like a serpent who has lost his jewel. Raghunath Das Goswami was remembering the past times of giving kajal to Srimati Radhika's eyes. And he is thinking that I'm worshipping these eyes. When Radhika is looking at Krishna with the corners of these eyes, it captures Krishna even though he is like a mad elephant. And then he cannot move here and there, just with the corners of her eyes. He becomes controlled. So I'm praying to these eyes. By a glance from the corners of these eyes, Krishna is controlled. So I want to worship them with kajal. Why are you giving kajal? Why not golden ornaments? Because it is the color of Krishna's anga, and Radhika wants only Krishna's color. So that color should be given on her eyes. Radhika will be so pleased if I give kajal. As he was remembering the pastimes, at once it stopped, and he became very nervous and he began weeping. Oh, where have I come? I was serving Srimati Radhika with kajal and all the ornaments, sindur, and all these things, and now I am here. Again, by and by, he enters into the realm of Radhika's service. Now he is remembering again. A sadhak will immerse himself in that seva, but we can only hear. Now a discussion comes about us. Where are we? We cannot even say that we are a sadhak. We know. There's a definition of the word sadhak in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Naivigyam anupagata Krishna sakshat krito yogya sadhaka parikirtita. I forget the first line. But Rupa Goswami is saying that a sadhak is one who's Nirvigyam anupagata. He's actually crossed beyond all obstacles at that stage. Nirvigyam anupagata. He's also qualified. Krishna sakshat krito yogya. He is qualified to have direct darshan, Krishna sakshat darshan. But he's not yet had it. Now, this is the definition of a sadhak. And who is given as an example by Rupa Goswami? Vilapa-kusumanjali Thakur, in his stage prior to, that pastime. Just after he left Chintamani and he began to journey, there was so much separation building up inside of him, right? But there was still this obstacle. Some obstacle was there. And that's why that pastime took place, where he took the hairpins and he is called a sadhak by Rupa Goswami. Then he became Siddha. And then, because Gurudev says, we never heard this previously, but whenever we heard that pastime, Chintamani was a prostitute and he became fallen and he was with the prostitute. But Gurudev described it somewhat differently. You remember? Gurudev was saying, first of all, we have to understand, Vilapa-kusumanjali Thakur, he wrote some of the highest poetry that exists on the planet. Krishna Karnamrita, right? Mahaprabhu found that in South India. It was written so that Mahaprabhu could hear it. And what kind of poetry? So, obviously, that person, Vilapa-kusumanjali Thakur, was an extremely high-level devotee, poet, Sanskrit scholar, Sanskrit poet, singer, everything. Chintamani was like that also. It was not that she was some low-class, degraded prostitute. She was a person who was like in the courts of the kings, like an expert dancer, singer. And their relationship was about that. Although lust was there, but their relationship was based upon that. And that's why she told him on that rainy night, if only you had that for Krishna, right? So, a sadhak. Yeah. When we understand this fact that we're not really sadhaks. Sadhak is practically prior to the stage of bhav. Krishna sakshat, krito yogya. When does somebody actually have that qualification, but they yet haven't had the darshan? That's the Bilva Mangal Thakur. So, again, by and by he enters into the realm of Radhika's service. Now he is remembering again. A sadhak will immerse himself in that seva, but we can only hear. We will see how pleasant things are in hearing too. What to speak of directly serving Srimati Radhika. This hearing will increase our greed. This hearing, this shravanam for Raga Nuga Bhajan is very helpful. You know, I was mentioning the verse Seva Sadhaka Rupena Siddha Rupena Chatrahi. One of the 3 verses that Rupa Goswami composed for describing what is the activities of a Raga Nuga Sadhak. So in that verse it says Seva Sadhaka Rupena Siddha Rupena Chatrahi. So that means that he's serving in the sadhak roop, like in Raghunath Das Goswami. He is an example of this in his outer form. Seva Sadhaka Rupena. And in outer form doing what? Like Rupa Goswami, like all of them. Sankhya Purvaka Nama Gana Natibis Kala Vasani Krito. Nidra Hara Vihara Kadi Vijito Chatyanta Dino Chayo. So in this way, they were using their whole time, 24 hours, in doing all different activities of hearing, chanting, praying, wandering and weeping and doing dandavat pranams. So, Seva Sadhaka Rupena Siddha Rupena Chatrahi Tad Bhava Lipsuna Karya Vraja Loka Anusarata. Tad Bhava Lipsuna Karya. That means he's serving in both his Siddha Rup, like we see Raghunath Das Goswami, Siddha Rupena Chatrahi, and also Sadhak Rup. Sometimes in Sadhak, sometimes in Siddha. Tad Bhava Lipsuna Karya Vrajaloka Anusarata. Vrajaloka means all the associates of Krishna. Vrajaloka. Anusar means to follow them. And so he's Tadbhava Lipsuna Karya. A particular associate. Tadbhava means their moods, their relationship with Krishna. He is constantly meditating upon that in his sadhak roop and then sometimes in his siddha roop. So in order to perform Raganuga Bhakti, someone has to know, that someone has to have the actual experience of having siddha swarup, of realizing their spiritual form. That will come in spurtis. We understand from the Madhurya Kadambini that it comes in spurtis, in the stage of asakti. But in the stage of bhav, it becomes fully realized. Yeah.
Maharaj, could you explain what the difference is between Vaidhi Bhakti that will lead someone to Vaikuntha and Vaidhi Bhakti that can develop into Raganuga Bhakti? How is it that Vaidhi Bhakti, I guess the distinction between someone who's performing Vaidhi Bhakti and someone who's performing Vaidhi Bhakti, and that Vaidhi Bhakti will become Raganuga Bhakti?
Can that stretch over there? Like, this way. Because the devotees are always asking, if somebody asks a question, can you at least repeat the question? So better that you tell again.
I was wondering about the difference between Vaidhi Bhakti that will take someone to Vaikuntha and Vaidhi Bhakti that will gradually become Raganuga Bhakti, and how that Vaidhi Bhakti will become Raganuga Bhakti, because I think like as a young kid hearing from Gurudev, I always thought, oh, Vaidhi Bhakti is bad. Or something like, oh, we shouldn't do Vaidhi Bhakti, you know? Like you're a little kid and this is what you, like, how you kind of hear. So I was watching a video the other day where Gurudev was saying like, oh, we have to do Vaidhi Bhakti. He's saying, I'm not even doing Vaidhi Bhakti. We have to do Vaidhi Bhakti. So I was just curious about how that Vaidhi Bhakti can, instead of taking one to Vaikuntha, take one towards the path of Raganuga Bhakti.
Okay, good question. So, first of all, in this line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it is a different type of Vaidhi Bhakti that we're being given. Gurudev often refers to the Vaidhi Bhakti that has been practiced, even in this Kali Yuga by the 4 Vaishnavacharyas and so forth. Because Mahaprabhu's message is not Vaidhi Bhakti. It includes that. Rupa Goswami has written in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu how to perform Vaidhi Bhakti. But it's not the same mood as the Vaidhi Bhakti that has been performed in other yugas and so forth, which leads to Vaikuntha. So that's why in the beginning of Chaitanya Charitamrita, those initial chapters, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is described in like 3 chapters with the verses of Srila Rupa Goswami and Swarup Damodar Goswami of the reasons why he descends in this world. So particularly there's a couple of verses in Bengali which are describing that Mahaprabhu has come from 2 causes. Dui hetu hoite ichara udgama. So what is one of them? Is prem ras niryas korite aswadam. He has come to taste the essence of prem ras. Then it says rag marg bhakti loke korite pracharam. And he has come to preach the pathway of rag marg bhakti. So what our acharyas are giving is preparatory for entering into Rag Marg Bhakti, because we are hearing about Krishna. We are hearing, even Srila Prabhupada, the most amazing thing that he gave the Krishna book, not even just to the devotees, but to the whole world, the 10th canto, right? Because Raganuga Bhakti, one becomes somewhat eligible to begin to even aspire towards Raganuga Bhakti through the medium of hearing this kind of katha. That's what Gurudev is actually saying here. Hearing the Lila Katha, hearing Braj Ras Katha. The books of the Goswamis are written for that purpose. They're describing all the pastimes. Like we sing, H.I. Gosai, Jabe Braje Koilo Vas, Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korilo Prakash, Nartam Das Thakur. H.I. Gosai Jabe, Vraje Koilovas. These 6 Goswamis, they went and they took up Brajvas, living in Braj. What did they do? Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korilo Prakash. They manifested the eternal pastimes of Radha and Krishna. That's what their books are. And how to approach that, how to enter there. So, like what you were saying, little kids, when you're a little kid, oh, Vaidhi Bhakti is bad. We've also seen that happen with grown-up kids. Yeah, we were just hearing the story the other day. I've heard it quite a few times from Rishabdev Prabhu about some of our brahmacharis when the preaching was first beginning for Gurudev, and how they were ridiculing. Oh, that's Vaidhi Bhakti. We're doing Raganuga Bhakti. Did you order the pizza yet? Has it come yet? So it's imitation. And it's, but little kids, they don't even know really what bhakti is, even. How little are you talking about? Teenagers?
Yeah, I just mean as a young person.
Right.
From 10, 11.
It's understandable what you're saying, because there was such a strong emphasis, and also Gurudev was engaging all of you in those dramas and so much absorption like that. And of course, right in his divine presence, and you were all getting these incredible samskaras, and because Gurudev was very, very pleased, So those samskaras are there. But every devotee will have to understand what the actual process is. And I haven't memorized the verse, but there's a verse which Gurudev actually highlighted when he was in Russia in 2004, in the Volgograd festival, right? Because it had come to Gurudev's attention that particularly Russians, they have a certain sentimental mood, and they were going off in a certain direction. There was a few of them that were saying, we should only hear Rasa Katha, nothing else. Right? We should only hear. This is the conclusion we've come to from hearing Gurudev's lectures and reading his books, and so that we should only hear Rasa Katha. So Gurudev confronted that, and he said, this is a misconception. Because there's a verse by Rupa Goswami that states that Raga Nuga Bhakti does not eliminate Vaidhi Bhakti. It even intensifies the practices of Vaidhi Bhakti. What are the 64 limbs of Bhakti? But in Raga Nuga Bhakti, there's a slightly different mood. And there are also a few different, you've heard them before, like worshipping Krishna in Dwarka, using certain hand mudras that are not conducive for Braj Bhakti, mood, developing the mood of Braj Bhakti. But otherwise, all of these 64 limbs are practiced, and they're practiced even more intensively. Have we not actually seen the application of our pure, exalted, pure devotee Vaishnavacharyas in their own life? Gurudev, even to the very end, chanting 1 lakh, right? So Gurudev is explaining that by hearing this katha, what happens, what should happen, is that your determination, I think he mentions it just here in this section that we're reading, that your determination will become very, very amplified and intensified by hearing this, you see. But you cannot avoid your sadhana bhajan. That has to become more and more intense and more one-pointed, one-pointed. But you cannot jump, you cannot artificially. It has to happen gradually. So, although Gurudev was really giving this tonic of medicine for everyone all over the world, but yet, and it's true, Gurudev also saw it, and he also said it, that in the future, my disciples will spread Sahajiyism everywhere. That's one quote that we've heard Gurudev told. He was aware. Because what happens if someone begins to concoct the process? What is the process? Prakriti Sahajiyism and deviation comes. That's what happened again and again and again, and it will always continue to happen for the conditioned souls who are unqualified, but yet they're trying to jump up to that. So many different apasampradayas, even in the modern day right now. So many misconceptions. So, is that
Yes, thank you, Mark.
clarifying it?
Yes.
Okay. So, now, this is for us. He's telling, a sadhak will immerse himself in that seva. A sadhak, we already told. That means Raghunath Das Goswami. That means an actual sadhak. He will immerse himself in that seva, but we can only hear. We cannot immerse ourselves in that seva. That's what the Prakriti Sahajiyas try to do. I've actually seen it. I remember years and years ago, one devotee was associating with all the Babajis. He lived down in Vaisalya, he got his Siddha Pranali and his Ekadas Bhavs, and he was telling me that he remembers himself in the Manjari form, doing this seva, that seva all throughout the day. But this is kalpana. That's what Gurudev was pointing out. This is imagination. This is not actual sadhana. And it cannot produce that result. Never, never cannot produce that result. So here Gurudev is telling now, what is the thing, what we should do. So, we can only hear. We will see how pleasant things are in hearing also. So what to speak of directly serving Srimati Radhika? Even just to hear about that, right? So pleasant. Yes. This hearing will increase our greed. But let's not forget, who do you hear it from? That's the main thing. Who are you hearing it from? And also, Gurudev's books. That's why they've worked so hard, our acharyas, to give these books. Because they are there. And you're associating with them. It's called Shastriya Sadhu Sangha. In the absence of actual living Sadhu Sangha, Shastriya Sadhu Sangha, there's a whole article by Param Gurudev about that. So, this hearing will increase our greed. This hearing, this Shravanam, for Raganuga Bhajan, it is very helpful. First, we will go through the word-for-word meaning, and then afterwards we will explain it deeper. He's talking about the verse, the shloka. So, Yasyanka Ranjita Shiras Tavamana Bange. Krishna goes to remove the man of Srimati Radhika. Who is he? He is Gostendra Sunu. Gostendra is who? Gostendra. He is Nanda Maharaj. Sunu means his son. Gostendra Sunu. He goes to Radhika for Mana Bhanga. Who goes to her for breaking her man? That son of Maharaj Nanda. He goes to Radhika for Man Bhanga, to break the man. Raghunath Das Goswami is praying to the Alta, not to Radhika. He's praying to the Alta. Oh, Alta, how fortunate you are. Even though Krishna has a peacock feather on his head, the Alta is the most beautiful Shringar of Krishna. The Shringar that Krishna took her feet on his head, and now he has that Alta on his head. There can be no more beautiful Shringar decoration than that. The peacock feather is beautiful, but when the sign of Radhika's Alta comes on the head of Krishna, the beauty of the peacock feather is covered by the beauty of the Alta. Laksha rasa sa chakada padayor adaste. When the sign of Alta comes on Krishna's head and is removed from Radhika's feet, then Srimati Radhika will call Tulsi Manjari, but not saying Manjari only. No. Oh Tulsi, oh Rati, come on and give me that Alta. Nyasto mayapyatitaram chavim apsyatiha. I will again put that Alta on Radhika's feet. If it is fresh and anyone touches it, the color will come out. So at the time when I am decorating Srimati's feet with this Alta, and Krishna comes again, then Radhika will say, you should go away at once. And if he puts his head at Srimati's feet, then that Alta will come on his head, and it is so beautiful that it is even more beautiful than the peacock feather. So therefore, Raghunath Das Goswami is praying, O Alta, may I use you to decorate Srimati Radhika's feet, and in this way I will serve your feet. So now, Gurudev is going to describe, which is nice and relevant for us, the 3 stages of Raganuga Bhaktas. 3 stages of Raganuga Bhaktas. Now we will explain the meaning of this shloka. Srimati Radhika is in Man, and she is also sad. Oh yeah, this is the 3 stages of internal, external, and in between. He's explaining. So, Srimati Radhika is in Man, and she is also sad. She is remembering Krishna in Vipralamba Bhav. A spurti comes there, and Srimati Radhika is remembering Krishna. Tulsi, or Rati Manjari, went to Srimati Radhika. Seeing that, she is very sad. Then Rati thought, I should serve her and try to make her pleased. She brought a golden plate and with very smooth cotton applied the red lac to color Srimati Radhika's feet. Tulsi remembered a past time and told Srimati Radhika while coloring her feet, do you know the glory of this color? She said to Radhika. She wanted to hear something from her. So, she is not answering in a straightforward way. She wanted to hear something from her, so she is not answering in a straightforward way. With a sweet voice, in a beautiful way, Radhika answered, I don't know. Do you know any glory of this? Glory of what? Yes. Certainly, it has so much glory, Tulsi responds to Radhika. The sadhak, who is a siddha and who has bhav, thinks as if Srimati Radhika is sitting there and he is serving her. Here the sadhak, bhakta can only think how this manjari is serving Srimati Radhika, and we will hear how they are serving. All are Raganuga, but their stages are different. We are only hearing this, and we have almost forgotten everything. The Bhav Bhakta thinks that Raghunath Das Goswami is doing seva in Manjari Bhav, and he is absolutely nearby Raghunath Das Goswami. Not as Raghunath Das Goswami, not in Siddha Bhav. And Raghunath Das Goswami is thinking, I am Rati Manjari, and Rupa Manjari is ordering me to serve Radhika. So Gurudev is telling here that the Bhav Bhakta, that level of sadhak, he's thinking that Raghunath Das Goswami is doing seva in Manjari Bhav, and that he himself, the Bhav Bhakta, is absolutely nearby Raghunath Das Goswami. So that's the vision of the Bhav Bhakta in this pastime. He is seeing that he himself, in his Manjari form, is right nearby to Raghunath Das Goswami as he's serving Radhika. And Raghunath Das Goswami, not as Raghunath Das, not in Siddha Bhav. Wait a second. It's a little bit, the editing here is a little ambiguous. All right. So, and Raghunath Das Goswami is thinking, I am Rati Manjari, and Rupa Manjari is ordering me to serve Srimati Radhika. Now, these are the three stages of Raganuga Bhajan. First is the Raganuga Sadhak. Second is the one who has achieved the state of Bhav Bhakti. And the third and highest one is Swarup Siddhi. Raghunath Das Goswami is showing all these three stages. He's showing it. We will have to try to advance to Bhav. And from Bhav, try to go to Swarup Siddhi. And from Swarup Siddhi to the perfected state of Prem or Vastu Siddhi. So that's the program. Right? Yes. This is not cheap. Never. Impossible that somebody can advance through these stages without absolute surrender. Absolute. Not just conditional surrender. Gaur Govind Maharaj, there's a famous quote from him. I haven't memorized it, but I've heard it a few times. He says, if it is not real surrender, then it is conditional, partial, or there's another word that he uses. 3 different adjectives he gives to that so-called surrender. And that surrender has to be completely full of Guru Nishta. Absolutely full of it. And also Vishrambena Guru Seva. So many prerequisites are there. But if somebody doesn't live their life according to the instructions of Sri Guru, perform Vaidhi Bhakti, control your mind and senses, follow Upadeshamrita, the first verses, 6 favorable, 6 unfavorable, 6 Vegas, tolerating that, and 6 types of association. And then from there, 5th verse, being able to discern what level of Vaishnava is on and respect them according to their level. And then being able to recognize a pure Uttam Adhikari, despite the fact that there may be some apparent physical flaws or even his personality may be like kind of rough like this. That's what is stated. So that's necessary, because if you're going to associate with Uttam Mahabhagavats and hear from them, you cannot take into consideration any of these. Why? We were reading in that Chaitanya Bhagavat how Mahaprabhu was talking about this, that no one should ever disrespect these 2. Now they are Mahabhagavatas. Their bodies are completely spiritual and transcendental. And there's some discussion was there about that. Yeah, Jagai Madha. So, then the 7th verse. The 7th verse is really what we all have to get to. Because the 8th verse will not come. The 8th verse is the essence of all advice verse in the Upadeshamrita, Tannama Rupa Charitadi Sukirtananu. How are you going to get there if you can't do the 7th verse? And what's the 7th verse? Syat Krishna Nama Charitadi Sitapya Vidya Pito Patapta Rasanasya Narochikanu Svadvi Kramad Gadgadamula Hanta. I'm forgetting. But Rupa Goswami is giving the example of a person with jaundice. And the person with jaundice finds it difficult to take the cure, the medicine. What is the medicine? Sugar candy. Yeah. I've actually heard, I remember that devotee Radhakund who left his body, Radhakund Das, he told me that he had, when he was in India, very severe jaundice. So the doctor came in with this bag of sugar candy, the rock candy. That's kind of like transparent, that type. Crystals. So he came in with a bag of it and then put it in a bowl and poured water over it and soaked it. And so gradually it blends in with the liquid, right? It's not hard anymore after some time. And you have to drink that, like super, super sweet sugar candy. And he had verified that because he had very severe jaundice, it tasted bitter. And he actually went through that curing process of continuing to drink, and gradually it's become sweeter, sweeter, sweeter. So what is Rupa Goswami giving that instruction for? What purpose is he giving that instruction? That the name of Krishna is like this. But we have the disease of jaundice. But the name of Krishna is always sweet. It's just our perception of it, right? So then he says that when one persists, and in the purport you'll see, determination is absolutely required. Even Prabhupada, I was hearing him explaining, or maybe I was reading it, how when someone wants to come into the stage of Madhyam, it is not an easy stage. You have to endeavor and push and push. And sometimes it's not so pleasant and so easy, but you have to do, And that develops the necessary samskaras, and also Krishna Nam gradually becomes sweeter and sweeter. So we want that. How to come from the stage of anartha-nivritti into nishta? And from the stage of nishta, one has to be absolutely, completely fixed in sadhana bhajan. That's the stage of nishta. It's not that one is just wasting time and in their life and not doing non-devotional activities and all of that. No. Stage of nishta means really firmly with your intelligence, with your mind, you become fixed in the activities of sadhana bhajan, right? And then, gradually, then the ruchi will come. Nishta transforms into ruchi. And that's what Srila Gurudev, he would say. Remember how he would tell?
Critical.
He would say, well, that's a different point. But he would say, I am simply praying to Krishna that all of you can at least in this life attain the stage of ruchi. And how he would say that once you attain the stage of ruchi, then you can do what? Yes. You can gallop. So the stage of ruchi is in the Sikshastakam as the 4th shloka. The stage of nishta is the 3rd shloka, Trinadapi Sunichena. But what is the 4th shloka? Na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim, kavitam ba jagadishakamai. I don't want anything in this world. Has no charm or attraction. Na dhanam, no wealth. Na janam, no followers, no pratishta, sundari kavitam, not even going to the heavenly planets or enjoying with beautiful women in this world. No. I don't want any of that, but I do want what? I do want birth after birth. Not even I'm demanding or asking for liberation from the cycle of birth and death. No. Only mama janmani janmanishvare bhavatad bhaktir ahoituki tvai. I want ahoituki bhakti, not just ordinary bhakti. Completely unmotivated for Krishna. And that means entering into uttam bhakti, right? That means anyavilashita shunyam jnana karmadya navritam anukul yena Krishna anushilanam bhaktiruttama. That's what it is. Coming into the stage of ruchi. Yes. Bhavatad bhakti rahoituki tvai. And only then can the the 5th verse of Sikshastakam come, which is compared to the stage of asakti, when one begins to realize his internal Siddha Swarupa. You know that verse? Ainanda tanuja kinkaram patitam mam vishame bhavam buddho kripaya nija pada pankaja stita duli sadrisham vichintaya. That is there. Like, Cheto darpana marjanam bhava mahadavagnina vapanam shreya kairava chandrika vitararam vidyavadhujivam. It's the 4th effect, and that comes in the stage of asakti. So this is what Gurudev is describing here. How we will have to advance. So Raghunath Das Goswami is showing all these 3 stages. We will have to try to advance to Bhav. We will have to try. If you don't try, do you think it's just going to come? One day you wake up in Bhav, you're in Bhav. That's what the Prakriti Sahajiyas actually preach, you know. So we will have to try to advance to Bhav, and from Bhav to go to Swarup Siddhi. What stage is the Swarup Siddhi? Bhav, in the stage of Bhav. And from Swarup Siddhi to the perfected stage of Prem or Vastu Siddhi. So that means in Bhavavasta, like in Madhuri Kadambini, when the devotee is just about to pass the threshold of Prem, and then what does Yogamaya do at that point for that sadhak? She transfers him to the planet where Krishna is performing his pastimes. Because why? Gurudev said so many times, this body cannot tolerate prema. Cannot. So although it's called attaining the stage of prema, but really that prema can only come in the Vastu Siddhi, in the Vastu Siddhi body. So these are our future lifetimes goals. But if we don't have that goal, we'll take many lifetimes. And what will happen is along the way we can get deviated very easily, or we can commit aparads and then get deviated from that. So we'll have to be serious. Yeah, that's why Gurudev always kept on saying, one-pointed. Just a little bit more, and then I'll finish. Is that okay? Or you have to rush off? Yeah. Can you take the mic? They're listening online, they can't hear it if...
You were mentioning about that's why we have to be one-pointed. And the whole time you were speaking, I was thinking about the Kamtik mood when she was asking that question. And I was thinking also how Gurudev said, one time he said to me, just by my being with me, all these things will come, Vaidhi will come, all these things will come, just by my association. He was saying that to me. So then in my mind went to a Kamtik. So we hear that so many times, and I was just wondering, Maharaj, if you could, when you just mentioned one-pointed and a Kamtik, can you explain a little more?
About what?
About what that means for the disciple in relation to Shri Guru.
What is ekantik in relation to Shri Guru?
Yeah, because we get so many types of association, and we get so many types of Vaishnavas association, and then we may hear some differences of mood.
You mean between pure Vaishnavas?
Pure Vaishnavas,
yeah.
So then, I just remember always this being instilled in my heart by being in Srila Gurudev's association, be a Kamtik towards me, be one-pointed towards me. So I was hoping if you can explain more.
Yeah, well, when Gurudev is saying ekantik, he's not eliminating our association with other pure Vaishnavas. Mm. Because there are other pure Vaishnavas and they may have some different mood. But what he's saying is that what he's specifically giving, this line, it's a specific line. Huh? There's a speciality. There's no doubt that there's a speciality in this line. Gurudev also told, I was remembering this on Param Gurudev's appearance day recently. I was remembering, but I didn't have a chance to find it in the biography, where Gurudev was mentioning that in our Gaudiya Math, only 3 different personalities would speak like I am speaking. And then he mentioned. Remember?
Because I had his association a little bit in '85.
Bhakti Jiva
Yeah.
Janardana Maharaj. Yeah.
That's one of them.
That was one of them. And you know, actually, it's very wonderful because there's something about his biography from Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Maharaj, right? In his book, My Beloved Masters. But also hearing, because the line that while he was in this world, he was staying in a particular location. What was that called? Kadakpur or something like that. And Bhakti Kamala Govinda Maharaj, who also left his body, you know, he took sannyas from him. Yes. But he was one of the only ones that could tolerate the association of Srila Bhakti Vaibhav Puri Maharaj, because he was so heavy and so chastising and like that. But he spent a long time, many years actually, with Bhakti Jivan Janardana Maharaj, you know. And so I heard various things. I think I heard it especially through Kishori Mohan, who had spent time with Bhakti Kamal Govinda. He was telling me different facts and different histories and so forth, you know, about Bhakti Jivan Janardana Maharaj and his moods and his, you know, being with him, what it was like. Actually, Bhakti Jivan Janardana Maharaj would lie his head in the lap of Bhakti Kamala Govinda Maharaj. And he would be in these moods of Radhe, Radhe, and like this, you know. So, yes. Yeah, and you had that association.
Just for that.
Yeah, but still, even just a little. That's one of the things you told me. You told me when I went there for that parikrama, because we met, that was in 85 that you were there, and you and I met again in 86 in San Jose, and you were telling me your experiences, and then you told me the first time you told me this about being on the parikrama with Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj and what it was like. And then you mentioned, but there was this one disciple of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He was a little bit, you know, large-bodied, but his eyes were always full of tears the whole month. And he was always chanting Radhe, Radhe, Radhe. So your observation of that became completely confirmed over the years, you know?
Yeah, and when he would speak Harikatha in that background, well, it was in Bengali, I believe.
Yeah.
I didn't understand anything, but I would see Gurudev and Srila Vaman Maharaj and Srila Trivikram Maharaj all weeping through his Harikatha.
I am so sad I didn't get his Sangha. But anyway, so what I was saying is like Gurudev, I'm pretty sure it's in the biography. Maybe not in the biography, but Gurudev was explaining that there were 3 persons who would speak like I am speaking. One of them is Bhakti Jivan Janardana Maharaj, and another one is my Guru Maharaj. Sometimes he would speak like this, you know, his moods, like that pastime about Gopal Champu and the pastime of Krishna after the Damodar Leela, and how they're trying, how Jiva Goswami is describing the scene after the Damodar Leela, how Krishna doesn't want to go to Mother Yashoda, but Nanda comes and puts Krishna on one shoulder and Balaram on another. Then he brings them into the cow barn and gives them mishri and makan and fresh milk from the cow's udders. You know, then finally he comes into Nanda Bhavan, and Mother Yashoda is at a far distance, and she's crying tears. And then, is it Rohini? Yes, she comes and tries to entice Krishna to come into Mother Yashoda's lap. And that pastime. Yeah.
What if your mother?
Yes. But first she's asking, but Krishna, if you don't go to Maya, then who's going to feed you? Baba will feed me. He'll bring me into the cow barn and give me milk. One or two other questions, you know, but then she says, but what if? Then Krishna began wailing, and he ran across the room, and Mother Yashoda opened her arms and he came into her lap as if he's merging with her. And everyone was weeping. So that's the story that Gurudev had been reading in the Gopal Champu, and he came to his Guru Maharaj, Param Gurudev, Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj. Oh, Guru Maharaj, I'm so amazed by Jiva Goswami's, how rasik. He's always been so much a perfect Siddhanta Acharya, but also so rasik. And they began to read that directly. And then Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj, what happened? He began weeping, and just drowned in tears. And then Gurudev also tells, this is in the biography, when Param Gurudev was arranging the altar at Devananda Gaudiya Math, and the 3 steps were there, and then he was telling which colors they should be, right? I don't think they were painted, or maybe they were already painted. But yeah, he was telling this step should be blue color, and this step should be yellow color, and then this step should be reddish color. Right? And can you...
Gurudev asked, what is the meaning? And he said it is the color of a very special gopi.
The red one, yes.
Pleasure to Krishna.
Mm-hmm.
And Gurudev, don't know if it was at that, then he went into ecstasy. He couldn't continue.
Yeah, he couldn't continue. Gurudev saw that he was becoming overwhelmed and choked.
Yeah.
Then he didn't ask any further.
That specific
yes.
gopi.
But what Gurudev could understand from that was that was him.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So these kind of things, this is the thing.
He asked at some point, I don't know if it was the same time, if did your Guru Maharaj give Siddha Pranali to any disciples?
Oh yes.
And Param Gurudev said, yes, certainly
yes.
he has given.
Mm-hmm.
Because if he had not,
yes.
then this would disappear
yes.
in its proper form.
Yes.
And then Gurudev asked him, did you receive? And he said, yes, I was fortunate enough to receive this from my Gurudev.
Mm-hmm.
He said, but, and then Gurudev asked, will you tell us?
Mm.
And he said, at a later date.
Right.
He said we built up the courage to ask him, but he said at a later time, which...
Yeah. So, This is the point about being ekatmic with Sri Guru. What was the other term you used? Ekantic, yes. Ekantic and ekatmic also. One Atma with Guru. And being, trying to follow the line that Sri Guru of that caliber, of a Braj Rasik Uttam Adhikari Vaishnava, has manifested in this world. And it's very, very, it's very special. It's not ordinary. There are so many different gurus who are speaking the line of our acharyas in our Gaudiya Mat and so forth especially. But the special contribution and the special mood and emphasis that was given by our Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, has these moods embedded within his Katha, within his books and so forth. And to be one-pointed, like we were saying before, one has to also be careful that one is not thinking oneself, imagining oneself to be on a level where they can now disregard the books of Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada and so forth. I'll never forget the first time that I came in not the first time, the second time, it was around 1985. You were there, and they were editing the Venu Geet and like that. But that was not in the festival time. That was like in 95, yeah. Yeah. And then one younger disciple of Gurudev was there, a lady, in one room. And I came into the room and she was saying, I never read the books of Swamiji anymore. I said, what? What am I hearing with my ears? Yeah. So that's called Prakriti Sahajya. That's called not understanding at all. You see? So, to really be in the line of Guru and fully accepting his moods, we have to be careful not to disregard other Vaishnavas who may not have been giving the same kind of openness in displaying this Katha, because internally they have so much, you see. So I'm just saying that to be ekantic, we cannot be fanatical in this regard. Oh, only my Guru, only I'm going to, no. Gurudev wanted us to have very broad association with many, many Vaishnavas, and there are so many that are in Madhyam level, through whom we can benefit so much. Yes, so time has gone, and
the mood is internally. We have a specific mood towards our Gurudev, but it doesn't remove. We have an internal mood towards our Gurudev, which is our life and soul.
Yes.
But still we honor and respect all other Vaishnavas.
Yes.
And we take their association.
Yeah. Gurudev wanted that. Go ahead.
Accordingly.
Yeah. Gurudev wanted, he gave like final instructions before he left the planet, and regarding during our parikramas and these special times of the year, he said, if there is any good Vaishnava, he didn't go into great detail, but he said any good Vaishnava who is not in our branch or like this, but we see that they are excellent examples of Vaishnavas, we can invite them to come into our assembly, which means also that they will also speak in our assembly. So, this is why Rupa Goswami has written the 5th and 6th verse of Upadeshamrita, so that we have to gradually come to this level by strictly following the first 4 verses. Then in the 5th verse, how to recognize the Vaishnavas, who's on which level, how to properly honor them on that level. So essential, you know. So we're always hoping that, you know, Vaishnavas of very high caliber, very high realization, that we can hear from them and benefit from them. But we also see the speciality of our own Gurudev, who has given what he has given. And we're just so fortunate, we can't even imagine our actual good fortune that we've come into this line under this personality and had the opportunity to hear directly in his association. So for the rest of the remaining days of our lives, we have to try to imbibe his moods deeper and deeper. And that means that we'll have to do very intensive sadhana bhajan. It will not happen without that. And we'll have to continuously hear, you know, hear, and also read his books. He didn't leave his books for anyone and everyone. Yeah, anyone can pick up his books, but he specifically has written them for the devotees who now want to come into this realm of Ragmarg Bhakti, you know. So, our class is going so long, but we start a bit late each day. That depends on the pujari, when the pujari does the artik and all of that. So we've made a little bit of progress into that purport. We did read things that we didn't read yesterday. Rishabh is impatient in a way.
I'm just looking at this and see you're leaving on the 5th.
No, he's kept on saying all through the last few weeks, actually,
How to get through it.
that at least if we can finish the whole Vilapa-kusumanjali, you know.
The questions come up, then what to do?
Well, not just questions also, but just even to read Gurudev's commentary. You can't just breeze through it.
Yeah.
That's not the way, you know. We have to relish and try to taste each shloka and you know, how Gurudev is describing Srila Raghunath Das Goswami's moods. And things are even repeated somewhat. I don't know. There's only a few days left.
Well, you can continue, right?
I can.
Yeah.
I can continue.
Sure.
It will be you know, live. It will be the opposite time.
Yeah, but it'll be there.
Yeah, and then it can be watched later. Yeah. No, I feel an obligation, especially to.
Yeah, because
Rishabh
he's
Dev
the
for
most devoted and
Yes.
The most
steady.
attended student.
Yeah.
Student of Gurudev and our Rupanuga Acharyas.
Yeah, this book is really the first time hearing clearly.
Yeah.
I mean, those papers that came,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I looked through them briefly this the first time.
Well, for me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually reading what Gurudev commented. And of course there's audios. Some audios are there.
But this is
Yeah.
way more extensive.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, although we're not qualified, at least I don't think that I'm qualified to enter into this book.
Yeah.
But I know that Gurudev would want me, at least at this point in my life, to be hearing this, to be exposed to this, you know. I remember Gurudev was saying, because sometimes people were putting forward an argument that, you know, that these things are not to be heard. You shouldn't read 10th canto or this or that, right? But Gurudev, he made a point, I remember hearing him making this point, that if that point, if that stage does not come in our life, But then when are we going to hear these things? If you've been 30 years, 40 years, now 50 years, when will we hear it? In our next life? When we take birth as a dog or hog? Right? No. In this life. So I realize that, this is a very high subject matter, and it's not for all levels of devotees. I wouldn't attempt especially for newer level devotees. But I'm thankful that there's some experienced devotees who had many, many years of association with Srila Gurudev. And they have some ability to access, at least to hear this and to appreciate. So I will see. Listen, I'm not on the plane yet. There's a number of obstacles that have to take place, and I'm worried. It's one thing to have the visa. It's one thing to have the passport. It's another thing to have the ticket. But now they even put a few other PCR tests and this and that, So when I'm sitting there and I'm putting my seatbelt on, masked or not, yes.
Then you relax.
But if it goes down in the ocean along the way, that's fine with me.
At least you're on your way there.
Yes.
Even before the pandemic, we would always feel, even if we had the ticket, we would always feel like we don't know we're going to make if anything could happen.
No.
We could miss our flight. The car could happen.
And those things have happened.
And those things happen.
Yes. Yeah. And when, when I would leave, to go traveling and preaching, I would think like that, I'm leaving the Dham. I wonder if I'll make it back in this life or not. Because anything can happen. Yeah. Any accident can happen along the way. So it's up to Krishna. If Krishna wants to protect us, no one can kill us. If Krishna wants us to die, no one can protect us. Right? Regardless of the astrology, right? But astrology is good. Yes. Yeah, you told that story the other day. It's an unbelievable story of our godbrother, his wife, and it was her. It showed clearly that she should not go traveling on that day. And then she got into a fatal car accident. Yeah, just recently, right?
And they were both astrologers.
Yeah, the wife and the husband.
But it's just,
So it's your time.
they thought, we'll take this precaution. I won't be the one driving the car. I'll just be a passenger.
And they even rented a car.
We rented a car.
Yeah.
We stayed.
What was his name? Shrikar, the Prabhupada disciple. And his wife, she left. So, we're not the controllers.
You'll be there, Maharaj. We know.
You know what?
We know you're going to be there.
You do know that.
We
feel it in our hearts.
Well, when the airplane is going down.
I don't know what it is. You just haven't. Gurudev's affection and mercy coming towards you, and you're supposed to go and be in the Dham for a while.
Yeah, till the end of this body.
Oh,
That's the
you
plan.
come back again.
That's the plan.
But you are flying over Russia, aren't you? And Ukraine, isn't that when you go over the pole from here?
I think so. Yeah. What's that got to do with it?
Well, world events. But
Oh.
Might get shut down.
No negativity.
No, that's not going to happen. There's so many flights going.
Everything's going to be sweet.
There he is on his way. Okay.
Oh, but he's contributing to Russia. He's been doing so much preaching there, so he's an asset. We don't.
It's probably
Yeah,
not
I'm
like.
sure he gets back.
I don't think I hope they're not hearing this right now.
Yeah, I have my little group that
I know,
watch every
right?
single time.
I
They're the
know,
only
I know.
ones that let me know that they're there. But if somebody doesn't write anything, I don't know who's watching, just like Bharat, you know. Yeah. So, yeah. But they're Russians. These are the Russian devotees.
Yeah, I've seen
their names.
Yes. They're very sweet devotees and disciples. They're very good. Krishna sent me a little tiny handful of very, very nice devotees.
That's
Okay, vancha kalpatarubhascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Krishna, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Krishna, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Krishna, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Krishna, Jaya Rupa Raghunath, Jaya Rupa Raghunath, Rupa Raghunath, Jaya Rupa Raghunath. Jaya Vrishabhanu Nandini Radhe Radhe, Vrishabhanu Nandini Radhe Radhe. Jaya Vrishabhanu Nandini Radhe Radhe, Jaya Kanumana Mohini Radhe Radhe, Kanumana Mohini Radhe Radhe. Jaya Sachi Nandan Jaya Gaura Hari, 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 Jaya Nitai Jaya Gaur, Jaya Nitai Jaya Gaur, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaur Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Suparikar Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari Radha Vinodpi Hari Radha Govinda Jiyo Ki Jai. Jai Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai, Shri Gurudev Ki Jai, Shri Rupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande. Vrindai Tulsi Debai Priyai Keshavasya Cha, Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Sajavachai Namo Namah. Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo